Erev Tov Chavrim, I'm Stephen Benoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. This is a very interesting broadcast tonight I wanted to share with you. We're going to be looking at the news that has been breaking now for several days. Israel burning. It's only getting worse and worse as the days go by. And I do believe that there is a strong prophetic implication for this burning. Before we go into Israel burning, let me remind you just quickly. A little while back, I brought out a special prophetic broadcast when the Intifada, the Third Intifada, began about the stabbings that were going on all across Israel through that Second Intifada. And something that the Lord had revealed to my heart there, and that was that those stabbing attacks were clearly a prophetic were prophesied by the prophet Ezekiel in chapter 35. If you look right here, it says, I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Now, God is not talking about Israel here. He's talking about Esau. And if anybody ever looks at the book of Obadiah, Esau is clearly identified in modern times and back in the time when Israel went dispersed throughout the world in 70 AD, Esau was the one that was accused of being there. And Obadiah clearly indicts the Romans, Titus the Roman general, as a descendant of Esau, and that he stood complicit as what? The Syrian soldiers who the Romans had hired to come in there to help Titus to destroy Jerusalem and to destroy the temple. But Obadiah says they were as one of them. They stood with them. They were complicit to the death of their own brother and the murderous acts that took place there. That was also mentioned here in Ezekiel, because notice what Ezekiel says in chapter 35, verse 5. Because thou hast had a hatred of old, and hast hurled the children of Israel unto the power of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time of the iniquity of the end. Now, notice that prophecy, and you can go back and look this up in one of our older broadcasts there, clearly identifies Esau as hurling the children of Israel into the power of the sword. Now, that doesn't mean that Rome actually has the sword in their own hand, but they hurl them into it. In other words, they cause the actions that have caused the sword to go to the throat of the Jewish people at the time of their calamity, which is exactly the way 70 AD is referred to in the prophecy of Obadiah. It was called their calamity. And then at the time their iniquity would have an end. That is, of course, Daniel chapter 9, verse 24. This is where the 70th week of Daniel speaks about Israel having an end of their iniquity. And of course, that is when Israel would be restored as a nation in modern times, and their iniquity would be no more. But of course, that only comes when they recognize who the Messiah really is. And that's something Israel has not done as of yet. But the clear thing is, though, is that they are to be hurled to the power of the sword, not only back in 70 AD, which Titus the Roman general did do exactly that, but also in modern days. The Third Intifada was a fulfillment of the prophecy written here in Ezekiel. Now we turn to Israel burning. And as those of you may know already, we've already seen so many photos, so many videos of Israel burning. A day ago, 3 days ago, 2 days ago, the photos go on and on and on, and everywhere, all across Israel, terrorism at a new height of setting the country on fire. There was a good friend of mine that just had sent me a message the other day asking me if I thought a prophecy in Amos may be being fulfilled with this part of Israel burning. And it may very well be. But there was one prophecy that caught my attention that might be that this Israel burning could be a warning sign to Israel. Even though it was for a time gone by, it may have a compound meaning, and that's in the book of Isaiah. If you look at Isaiah, it says, Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord hath spoken. Children I have reared and brought up, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knoweth his owner, the ass his master's crib, but Israel doth not know. My people doth not consider. Ah, sinful nation of people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that deal corruptly. They have forsaken the Lord, they have contemned the Holy One of Israel. They are turned away backward. On what part will you be stricken, seeing you stray away more and more? The whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. Now, we would say Isaiah is speaking of the times back when Israel maybe was getting ready to go into Babylon for the evils that they did there. Well, I would agree with that. This is during the time of Hezekiah, the different kings back in the days of the house of Judah and Jerusalem, and the evils that they were doing at that time. I agree with that. All the way down to 70 AD. As a Jewish people, we have to recognize that in 70 AD, I don't care how many animals you were sacrificing, it still wasn't doing away with your sins, because Israel, our people, were scattered throughout the entire earth, just as the house of Israel had been scattered to the entire earth back 780 years before that for sin. All right, so, undoubtedly the bulls and goats and everything that we were offering wasn't doing what we really needed it to do. And maybe there was something that just wasn't right. Maybe it was a lack of sincerity. Maybe it was not something God really wanted. Well, let's take a look at what the Word of God says here, and then keep in mind modern days today as we look at this. From the sole of the foot even into the head, there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and festering sores. They have not been pressed, neither bound up, neither mollified with oil. Your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Your land strangers devoured in your presence, and it is desolate as an overthrown by floods. Now, friends, I'm going to tell you something. My Jewish people, I'm going to tell you something as well. Your country is desolate. Yeshua stood right there, just like David did over there, and wept over Jerusalem and said, how often I would have hovered you as a hen would her own brood, but you would not. Your house is left to you desolate until you say, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. And so here it is again. Your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire, and they're burning our cities with fire right now. Your land, strangers devour it in your presence. And that's exactly what Israel is doing. Israel has allowed every nation in the world to come in there and dictate, you're going to divide this up, you're going to divide that up, and you're going to give this to this person, and you're going to give that to that person. Well, let me tell you who's running the show for you. That's Rome. You know why? Because you allowed Rome to come in there. You gave the Pope an official seat there at the tomb of David and made him your king. The same mistake Israel made under Jezebel and Ahab when Ahab took and married Jezebel and brought idolatry into Israel. Well, you've done it again. You brought idolatry into Israel. And as a result, Louis Jean Taron, the Vatican's own spokesman on Israel there, says to Israel, back in 2014, 2013, something like that, there will be no peace in Jerusalem until all the holy sites are given sovereignty over to Rome. Now, that's not quoting exactly, a little bit of a paraphrase there, but Giulio Meotti wrote that story. You can check it out on Israel National News and just look up Giulio Meotti and Cardinal Louis Jean Taron to find out about this. All right, so this is what's happening. Everybody is getting a say in Israel's land except Israel, except the people of Israel. All right? And notice, he says, your cities are burned with fire, and your land, strangers devour it in your own presence. And that's exactly what's happening. See, and it is desolate as overthrown by floods, and the daughter of Zion is left as a booth in a vineyard, as a lodge in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. Except the Lord of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant, we should have been as Sodom, we should have been likened unto Gomorrah. Now, according to this, Sodom and Gomorrah is already burnt, but watch what he says next. Hear the word of the Lord, ye rulers of Sodom. Give ear unto the law of our God, ye people of Gomorrah. To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me, saith the Lord? I am full of the burnt offerings of rams and fat of fed beasts, and I delight not in the blood of bullocks or lambs or of the goats. And yet Israel wants to build a third temple and begin all the sacrificial system all over again. And God tells you right here, He's had enough of it. So why do you want to do it? When you come to me, appear before me, who hath required this at your hand to trample my courts? By the way, that trampling is hooves of animals. Bring no more vain oblation. It is an offering of an abomination unto me. New moon and Sabbath, the holding of convocations. I cannot endure iniquity along with the solemn assembly. Your new moons and your appointed seasons my soul hateth. They are a burden unto me. I am weary to bear them. And when you spread forth your hands, I will hide mine eyes from you. Yea, when you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. All right, so there is still a remnant there. And we do have the prophecy that when we return back, according to Micah, we return to the homeland. We would dwell on Mount Zion even forevermore. But let me show you something. But notice that, though. I don't want you to miss this one part there. The land is burning. Right? We're seeing this prophecy right here. Your cities are burned with fire. Your land, strangers devoured in your presence. Is that not repeating today? I mean, to me it is. But he does say that there is a remnant. And the daughter of Zion has left a booth in a vineyard. Just there's a little bitty remnant there. We're giving away the whole land of Israel is just being given away. You're going to give it to the United Nations. You're going to give Jerusalem over to them. They're going to take it. And guess what? You know who's going to come there and rule from there? The Pope of Rome's going to come and rule from there. But he's not going to be doing it alone. He's got a host coming with him. And I guarantee you one thing. The message I have for you tomorrow is going to curl the hair on the back of your head when you hear what's about to happen. And it's laying all through our Bible. Paul spoke so much of it, and nobody pays no attention to Paul. You should pay attention to what he said. He had some very powerful things to say. Let me take and share with you something else, though, just so you know that this here kind of lines up with some other prophecies as well. Because see, we know that God said that Israel would return to her homeland. I'm not saying that Israel's not returned to her homeland. And Israel did return to her homeland. And she's there to see the coming of the Mashiach, the Messiah, right? But let me just remind you what happens when she returned to her homeland. All right? See, and many nations shall come and say, Come ye and let us go up into the mountain of the Lord, into the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem, right? And he shall judge between many peoples and shall decide concerning mighty nations afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. But they shall sit every man under his own vine, under his fig tree. And none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken it. For let the peoples walk each one in the name of its God, but we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever, right? In that day, saith the Lord, I will assemble her that is halteth, and I will gather her that is driven away, and her that I have afflicted. And I will make her that is halted a remnant, and her that was cast far off a mighty nation. The Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth even forever. Thou, Migdal Eder, the hill of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, yea, the former dominion come again into the kingdom of the daughter of Jerusalem, right? Then what does he say? Now, why do you cry out loud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perished, that thy pains have taken a hold of thee as a woman in travail? Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and shalt dwell in the field, and shalt come even unto Babylon. There shalt thou be rescued. There shall the Lord redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies. Who's their enemy? Babylon. He's got to rescue out of their hands. Why? Because you went off and made a covenant with them. Even though God told you not to make covenants with these people, you did it anyway, and you brought Rome right back into Israel all over again. You know what? Let me tell you something, my Jewish friends. Israel is being set up the same way it was 2,000 years ago when Yeshua, the Messiah, came and was crucified. And see, Rome was in control. We had a Roman governor there. We had a prefect there. We had Herod, who was, the Roman king there that put to death all the children. Remember all that? Well, guess what? You're bringing in the Romans again. And thanks to good old Shimon Peres that you give the peace award to and everything else, he made sure that, Rome got to marry Israel. But I thank God for Daniel's prophecy, said that vision, that they will stumble. They won't get it all together. It ain't going to work completely good, because God's got two witnesses that are going to come in there, and they're going to lay down on these people and going to tell you what's really going on, and then you'll know for sure what's happening. So there still is a remnant, but unfortunately that remnant has got to go through some serious travails here, according to this here. God says, she cries out like a woman in travail. Now, many nations are assembled against thee. They say, let her be defiled, and let our eye gaze upon Zion. But they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they his counsel. For he hath gathered them as the sheaves to the threshing floor. Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, for I will make thy horn iron, and I will make thy hooves brass. Let me tell you something. There's coming a deliverance, but before that deliverance, we're seeing the fires now. We're seeing our cities being burnt. We're seeing the land being just given away to any old body, and it's done right in front of your eyes. You're seeing Isaiah's prophecy repeat itself again in modern times, and nobody seems to be paying it attention. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Erev Tov.